being a superhero and a photographer at the same time. Good reflex.
The Spider-Man animated series was one of the most iconic shows back in the 90s. For a really long time, it was the longest-running show created by Marvel, coming second only to the X-Men series. The theme song rings in your head years after the show stopped airing. Spider-Man, Spider-Man. You can hear it, right? The fruity voiceovers, the steel laughs, and the oddly reptilian moves all made the show a complete package. Every weekend, the show brought back to us some of the chilliest, nail-biting moments and some of the most terrifying threats, such as Green Goblin, Ock and Sandman. A number of these villains have made it to live action in Marvel or Sony's Spiderverse, but there remain a few fan favorites that we would absolutely love to see on screen, with their stories strung together from the comics, the animated series, and the MCU multiverse. So without much ado, let's dive into the 10 villains from the animated series who totally deserve their own cinematic moment because, sure as hell, they'd work perfectly in a movie today. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
I forgot! You and Parker are buddies!
Where do you get off attacking defenseless old ladies?
Tombstone. Tombstone has appeared in a number of appearances in the animated world, such as Spider-Man the Animated Series, the Spectacular Spider-Man, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and Into the Spiderverse. So it would be a visual treat to finally watch this tall, heavy, and pale-faced brute standing across from Tom Holland. After he fell into a vat of acid, the harsh chemical exposure not only bleached his skin forever, but also lent him superhuman strength. This also gave him pointy fangs and a deeper voice. Violent and temperamental, Tombstone would spare no thought before ruthlessly stomping on his enemy's face. He may be a cold-blooded murderer, but he holds respect for Spidey, always waiting for the next battle in spite of his defeat. His redemption arc began with his working with the Spider-Men, where they tried to save him even though he doubted their abilities at first. His greatest power is his invulnerability. You can shoot him in the head, but that won't do him noticeable harm. In fact, he would feel no pain unless you inject him with Spider-Man's counter drug. That, and his proficiency in firearms and hand-to-hand combat, make him one of the most resilient villains of all time. The MCU could sure as hell bring this character to life, and you'd have Tombstone merch selling on day one itself. A common enemy to both Spider-Man and Daredevil, Tombstone would be the perfect villain, creating a ruckus in the city as Matt Murdock and Peter Parker team up to stop evil from taking over NYC. Hammerhead. Hammerhead first appears in the Spider-Man 1981 episode Wrath of the Submariner. Since then, the character has been voiced by the likes of William Boyett and John DiMaggio, which is quite a tease because we want to see him played by some Italian hottie on screen. Unlike the popular villains of the Spider-Verse who are scientific masterminds gone insane, Hammerhead is true to his name. With more brawn than brain, he can ram through anything and everything that gets in his way with his unbreakable skull full of adamantine. No Way Home was darker than you'd realize. As Peter is forgotten into oblivion, the New York City underworld can become an unrestrained hotbed of criminals who would roam scot-free. As a major crime boss, Hammerhead could be the new menace that Peter takes on in his fight against the corrupted city. Hammerhead's career begins as he serves Silvermane, who was fighting Kingpin back then. Hammerhead steals the Tablet of Time from Dr. Kurt Connors, but is stopped by Spider-Man. After Silvermane fires him, Hammerhead joins Kingpin, whom he serves loyally for the rest of his life. We would love to see Tom Holland chasing the Tablet of Time as it surfs slips through the evil hands amidst the battle between the two rival villains. Whichever side Hammerhead is on, this flat-headed mafia don is sure to be a constant annoyance for Peter. In fact, the whole of Magia, an organization made of all the underworld families, would be the next big threat for Spider-Man. Hydroman. A member of the Frightful Four, Hydroman is a supervillain in the Spider-Man multiverse whose story revolves around his love for Mary Jane. Originally called Maury Bench, he used to date her at one point in time. After their breakup, he went and joined the US Navy. When a freak accident dragged him to the ocean floor, he was consumed by a mysterious chemical that made him the famous Hydroman. He could now control any kind of liquid that comes in his vicinity. In spite of such immense powers, he couldn't win back Mary Jane, and that made him more desperate. He would venture into a series of high-end crimes just to get treasure for her. When all efforts failed, he simply kidnapped her until she finally ran from him. Spider-Man intervenes, but Hydroman is quick to escape. In the end, MJ tricks Hydroman into going to the rooftop during the daytime, far away from water. As Hydroman darted at Spider-Man, who had followed them, his already unstable body failed to hold up, and his entire body splashed across the roof, only to be evaporated in the scorching heat of the midday sun. Just like that, it was all over for Hydroman, until Miles Warren later retrieved samples of his DNA from the site and cultured a clone of Maury Bench's mind. This is a great story that could be explored in the upcoming films. Even though MJ has no memory of Peter and she's free to date and ditch whoever she wants, we know that Peter would always protect her. So even if a crazy ex decides to sweep her off her feet by charm or by force, nothing escapes the mighty Spider-Man. Far From Home actually does show a Hydroman, but he isn't the original guy from the comics. Recreating him on screen can be quite a tricky business, given that fans would not be very fond of an impersonal elemental CG alien. We want a handsome lover boy turning into a shape-shifting evil villain who can gush in tons of water and drown Spider-Man on the dry streets of New York. Miles Warren, the Jackal. We have seen all kinds of animals in the Spider-Man universe, and who else can play the Jackal if not Miles Warren? In The Amazing Spider-Man number 31, December 1965, Miles first appears as a professor at Empire State University. As time passes, different storylines emerge, but the basic plot remains the same. Warren is a scientist who's passionate about genetic engineering and biochemistry, which makes him a crucial character that can reincarnate some of the major characters. It all started when his passion project failed to secure government funding because his subjects were too unstable to survive. Now, Hydroman's water-based cellular structure was exactly what he needed, and he made no haste running to the rooftop. We all know how the story turned out. Miles cloned Hydroman, but he too had feelings for Mary Jane like the actual version. Now, she was missing after a fight between Spider-Man and the Green Goblin did not go as planned. So now, Miles is on a frenzy and clones her as well, but this version of Mary Jane gets Hydroman's powers and abilities. Like, hold up, dude. Don't do it just because you can do it. Mary Jane was dating Peter before disappearing, so this new MJ flees to him and they marry. Spider-Man fans know by now that there is no happily ever after in Peter Parker's life. Hydroman soon abducts her and brings her to Miles's underwater laboratory. No matter how hard Spider-Man tries to save her, she is too unstable to survive and thus evaporates. Guess what Miles does when he finds a piece of Spider-Man's suit? Need I say more? Since the MCU has opened up the multiverse, a mad scientist gone bonkers with grief could really start off a clone saga. Even the Sony Spiderverse could explore the origin and becoming of the Jackal. Crippled with grief and thirsty for revenge, Miles creates an alter ego, the Jackal, who blames Spidey Boy for Gwen's death. He creates a green suit and gauntlets with razor-sharp claws, and even trains himself in martial arts. He later engineers his own genes to gain the speed, strength, and agility of the Jackal. Not gonna lie, I would totally love to sport a dark green t-shirt with the yellow silhouette of a Jackal's face printed on it. Kingpin. As the name suggests, entrepreneur Wilson Fisk is secretly the kingpin of crime. Originally called Wilson Moriarty, he was bullied as a kid for being fat. It was his father's criminal career that roped him into robbing a bank with the old man. But soon, he realized that his father had betrayed him, abandoned him, and sacrificed him to the police. The years he spent at prison made him a highly skilled and networked villain who not only built a whole-ass criminal empire, but also got his treacherous father killed. Fisk turned out to be an evil genius who is highly proficient in organizing and managing superpowered thugs who can do the bidding for him while he doesn't get dirt on his hands. To this end, he once even sacrificed his own son, Richard, for a joint venture they were in. Not very different from his own father, is he? Now, this is a supervillain you want to steer clear of. He sees Spider-Man as a threat to his kingdom of crime that he has built from scratch. Naturally, he employs a group of spider slayers to take down the loose cannonball that Spider-Man is. Fisk himself has no superpowers, but he is 350 pounds of muscle and has even overpowered Scorpion. And Scorpion is someone who can just crush Spidey's spine with a bear hug. Fisk can knock out Peter with one punch, take down Red Skull's robots with bare hands, and overpower Daredevil with ease. Where Spider-Man and Rhino fail to break free from chains, Fisk can just break free from the shackles with minimum effort. Introducing Kingpin to the MCU can be the next big thing the house has in store for the fans. Seems like we'll get to see Tom Holland outwitting the villain lord in some witty one-liners and cool action scenes. We simply can't wait now, can we? Silvermane. One name that comes to mind when you think of Kingpin is Silvermane, his arch nemesis. We don't really know much about his early life, but we do know that he had a daughter named Eliza who takes on the name of Silver in order to hide their relationship. She even interns with Dr. Connors just to spy on his work. Silvermane's ruthlessness as an elderly syndicate lord shows through his countenance, especially in the animated form. We don't want to miss watching him come to life as a grumpy old man who is paranoid of old age and obsessed with youth and immortality. Marvel creators, are you listening? His ambiguous background from Corleone, Sicily, as the aging Silvio Manfredi can also be innovated. His links to the Hydra and his defeat at the hands of Daredevil and Nick Fury's team can be explored in retrospect, giving a new twist to the initial phases. It's risky, but hey, we are just leaving food for thought. Now that we are considering the MCU showing gang wars between Hammerhead and Kingpin, Silvermane's transformation into a cyborg and the eventual destruction of his suit amidst hardcore action is just what we need. While the robotic parts enhance his normal strength and functions, it also means that the remaining parts need to be preserved with extra care. His magic potions, restoring him to his 40s, would be a challenge the makeup artists would have to undertake. But if they manage to execute this well, Silvermane has a unique storyline that can branch out from the main plot, intervening only at major junctures that would leave fans screaming for more. Alistair Smay in Cyborg Spider Slayer. Alistair Alfonso Smythe, the son of Spencer Smythe, is a human cyborg who takes on notable aliases like the Ultimate Spider Slayer. Spencer had dedicated his entire life to eliminating Spider-Man, but when he finally succumbed to his injuries in the process, it was his son who would dedicate his entire being to exacting revenge against the web slinger. So this is one of those guys you feel sorry for. He didn't choose criminality out of an innate love for crimes. Rather, it was destiny that led him to a vicious life of anger and violence. What's more tragic is that he creates a whole new generation of Spider Slayers, but this leaves Alistair paralyzed all the way down from his waist. Soon he would encase his body in a bioorganic carapace that granted him superhuman levels of strength, durability, speed, agility, and reflexes. It's not just razor blades and talons for him. He can crawl up giant walls and spin artificial webs from spinnerets on his wrists. This version of Alistair Smythe first appears in Spider-Man the Animated Series, voiced by Maxwell Caulfield. In Spider-Man 2017, where the character is voiced by Jason Spizak, Alistair is a teenager studying at the Osborn Academy. His refusal to respect his dad's powers strains their relationship. He gets upgraded Vulture technology and even goes on to command an Ultimate Spider Slayer mech. He had barely joined the Osborn Commandos when the group was brainwashed by Dr. Octopus, who revamped the team as the Sinister Six. But don't worry, it won't be long before Spider-Man will come to their rescue, along with Harry Osborn as the Hobgoblin. Introducing Alistair Smythe as the villain can be a primer to the whole Spider Slayer's plot, which then blends into the Cyborg saga. It's a complete package, don't you think? Marvel should drop everything and find the perfect cast for the Smythe father-son duo.
Late for Halloween. Name's Hobgoblin. And you're right on time.
Hobgoblin. All hell broke loose in the MCU Spiderverse when Green Goblin brutally murdered Aunt May. Instead of exacting a terrifying revenge, Peter cures Norman Osborn and returns him back to his own reality. But that doesn't mean we can't have another Goblin making things messier. There have been a range of characters using the alias of Hobgoblin in their fight against the superhero, so I'm pretty sure we are going to see at least one in the upcoming films. But the real question is, who's it going to be? Will it be Roderick Kingsley, the wealthy fashion designer and Mary Jane's ex-boss, who comes across Norman's technology? Will it be Jason Macendale, the petty thug from the streets? There's a myriad of possibilities. Others who have donned the mantle of the Hobgoblin include Lefty Donovan, Roderick's twin brother Daniel Kingsley, Spider-Man 2211's daughter Robin Bourne, Ben Ulrich's nephew Phil Ulrich, and Kingsley's butler Claude. Our best guess lies with Ned Leeds, though, especially since he was once framed as the real deal. In the comics, another version of the Hobgoblin comes to brainwash Ned, who emerges as a crucial villain in the grand scheme of his master. He even wears the famous blue and yellow outfit. I can totally imagine Tom Holland's baby face about to break into tears as he realizes that his dear, dear Ned has betrayed him. I feel shattered on his behalf, given that Peter and Ned have been inseparable right from the start. The other villain's debut in the MCU is only a potential that we are speculating about. But Ned? This one is too close to home, pun intended. Owl. As Phase 4 approached, we thought the MCU would now delve into the second generation of superheroes and child prodigies who figure out the whole adulting process on their own. Then Eternals showed us that the MCU never plays it safe. Instead, they would usher in a whole bunch of new characters hitherto unexpected. In this context, the Owl does seem like a villain that the creators may be secretly planning to drop upon us in theaters. It was in Daredevil number 3, August 1964, that we first see the character. Since then, he has been featured as a recurring enemy of Daredevil throughout the 1960s and 1970s, returning to fight Spider-Man as well. There's actually very little that we know about the guy, so Marvel can fill in the missing pieces with a strategic character like him, providing this wide-eyed villain with a new life. Leland Owlsley, a successful banker, went about as the Owl of Wall Street before the Internal Revenue System charged him with tax evasion and crooked deals. Owl had a simple solution, using his genius to emerge as a criminal mastermind. Owl features amongst some of the biggest names in the criminal syndicate, rising up to be a member of a special group full of crime lords. It's a treat to watch all the big underworld names, Silvermane, Hammerhead, Kingpin, attend the meeting held in a large skyscraper with a dome on top. It's been quite some time since we saw Tony Stark flying into his uber-rich, luxurious penthouse in his Iron Man suit and the Avengers assembling in the same tech-cool place since the Crisis. So the MCU could really rekindle some old memories and show the villains concocting the devious plan of eliminating Spider-Man in a fancy duplex, maybe. His swift reflexes, his sharpness of sight and sound, his piercing fangs and talons, and his ability to glide through short distances all make him a pain in the crast for heroes like Daredevil, Spider-Man, and Black Cat. The character of Owl has also fought Dr. Octopus, Alpha Flight, and the Fantastic Four when he was recruited by Dr. Doom. At one point, Black Widow even saves Daredevil from the clutches of the villain. Just bring him in already. Prowler. When a petty crook named Hobie Brown gets access to high-tech abilities from the Kingpin of crime, the Prowler is born. Hobie was always hungry for power, but his circumstances had allowed him to serve only a small crime boss named Iceberg. Underpaid and unsatisfied, he began to steal from his boss, who came down heavily upon him when he found out. As he escaped, he was devastated to find his girlfriend leaving him for another man. It is precisely at this point that he met the engaged couple, Mary Jane and Peter Parker. Spider-Man appeared just as he snatched her purse, and this led him straight to prison. In jail, he meets Richard Fisk, whom he tried to save from some people who were trying to attack him. Once out of prison, he meets Richard's influential father, Wilson Fisk, who gives him the powerful Prowler suit. Prowler was always this vengeful guy, and now he returned to confront his ex-boss, defeat the man, and turn Iceberg into his own servant. But here's the catch. Prowler's suit demands constant recharging, and a little delay would shock the shit out of Hobie. Kingpin can recharge it, but he would do so only if Hobie worked for him. Having no place to go, Prowler seeks help from Peter, thinking that the latter would help him contact Spider-Man. He even narrated the whole story of how he got out of prison. Being the good guy Peter is, Spider-Man appears to help Prowler defeat Kingpin and get him out of the fatal suit. Hobie later reforms and becomes a strong ally of Spidey. Perfect story, right? This could actually be the next Spider-Man film before the MCU introduces the Hydroman and Miles Warren plotline. Marvelous verdict. Spidey's gallery of rogues features one of the most diverse ranges of villains of all time. What I love most about the Spider-Verse is that there's a range of animals, reptiles, birds, and even mammals that render unique characteristics to the villain. But it's never about the strength of the animal itself. Rather, it's all about the person who uses the power bestowed upon him. Peter never deserved the fate he got. It is one of love, loss, and pain. What about the villains who share similar stories of losing loved ones and choosing a life of vengeance where they carve a name for themselves? Can you blame the bad guys when the bad things have happened to them? Peter stands as the living example of choosing the right way even when bad things keep happening. In an ever-expanding multiverse, These bad guys make Peter's journey so remarkable. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe out there. Thanks, everyone.